Good morning, IED. Welcome to the second part of the Rosie tutorial. Let's go ahead and start where we left off and color in Rosie's eyelash things. And they're black according to the image, so I'm going to paint them black and say OK. Now at the end of the first video I mentioned that we had to extrude this out an additional 0.01 from the actual red eyes. And I'm going to demonstrate why we do that right now. So let's say we had two shapes and two sketches. A rectangle and maybe a circle. So that's two shapes and two sketches. And I extruded out both the rectangle, 0.5, and I also extruded out the circle at 0.5. And both of these shapes were overlapping. So if I went to color them right now, I could actually only get one color on both of those shapes. And since the eyes and the eyelashes are next to each other, I want two separate colors. So what I can do, and I'm going to quickly undo a step, is I can extrude the shape that's close by 0.001 or something very small to the other extrusion if they're connected to each other. And now you can actually color both extrusions different colors. And I mean 0.01 to the human eye is like nothing. So it's a great way of getting different colors and still giving the effect that it's on the same surface. So I'm going to undo all of that. And let's go ahead and make Rosie's mouth. So Rosie's mouth looks like it's a large rectangle with a smaller rectangle inside of it. So I'm going to go ahead and start a sketch over here. Use the rectangle tool to draw in a rectangle. And this is a common mistake that people do. They'll draw in a rectangle, they'll draw in a line, and then they'll think that they can extrude out Rosie's mouth. But lines have no thickness. So right now you can't extrude out the mouth, you can only extrude out these two rectangles. And that's not what you're trying to do. So let's dimension this mouth as well. What are we getting? 0.35? Okay. And let's also run a line down the center of the mouth. And that's going to help us dimension the mouth to the edge of the shape. So we know that the entire length of the rectangle is 2.25. So if you didn't want to do the math in your head, or if you didn't want to use a calculator, you could just type in the equation in Inventor. So I could do 2.25 divided by 2, and that's going to take me to the halfway point. It's going to do the math for me and move it over there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and draw in a larger rectangle. So I'm going to click it. Whoops, not at the center. I'm going to click at one of the edges here and draw a larger rectangle around Rosie's mouth. And then I'm going to click. And let's dimension it so it's on the same at all edges. I'm getting 0.014, so let's just say 0.015. We're going to do that with all the edges. 0.015. 0.015, and 0.015. So that's looking pretty good. And let's also draw in a line over here. Click there, and one more line, and click there. And I'm also going to dimension these two lines 0.015 away from each other. So your sketch is going to look something like mine. Make sure your lines are similar. And now that we have it all fully dimensioned, we're going to trim off some parts that we don't need. So if you remember, I said we want to extrude shapes that are a single shape. So right now we have multiple shapes. So that's going to kind of be a hassle to extrude. Let's go ahead and use the trim tool. located over here. And we're going to trim off a few things. We're going to trim off those lines, this line's fine, or what? Not that line. I'm going to undo that. This line I want to trim, and this line, as well as these two lines over here. Okay, so if you imagine I poured water into this shape, the water could flow anywhere in this area and it wouldn't be inhibited. So the mouth is complete. I'm going to go ahead and finish that sketch, and now I can use the extrude tool to extrude out the mouth, and we're going to make it 0.05, and I'm going to say OK, and let's color that in. I'm going to get the edges as well. Okay, cool. We have a mouth for Rosie. Let's do one of her ears. So her ear is like a circular red ball, and then that black thing. It's not sticking out, it's actually just part of it. So I think you should be able to do that since we've done the eyes and it's a similar concept. So you can do the ears. Let's do her little scarfy thing on the top. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to create a 2D sketch. And I'm going to use, let's see, I guess we'll still use the arc tool. Although I'm going to risk it actually, and I'm going to actually use where the line location is, click on the down arrow, and choose the spline option. So click on spline, and what spline does is you can draw out weird shapes based on where you click at. So I'm trying to make her headscarf thing, and I'm not a pro at this tool. All I'm doing is trying to draw it. I'm going to click it there, and I'm going to, whoops, let me try that one more time. The main thing about the spline tool is you don't want to overlap it like this. You always want it to be separate from one another. So I see, once you click on the last spline, you have to hit the check mark and it will save it. And since it's not a shape right now, it's only a line, let's draw in a line at the bottom. So I'm going to switch back from spline to line. I'm going to draw a line going from one edge of that to the other edge. So Rosie has a hat made with the spline tool, and if you don't like the hat that you made, you can adjust these dots that it also created, and you can create different effects. It's a very tricky tool to get really good at, but it's a fun tool to work with. So I'm going to finish the sketch. We're going to extrude it, and I don't want to extrude it this way, so I'm actually going to grab the arrow and move it that way. 0.1375 looks fine to me. And if I clicked OK, and then we tried to change the color of it, you're going to notice that I violated that rule, because right now the hat that we made is on the same surface as Rosie's face. So we're going to actually undo that, go back to extrude, and we're going to extrude it half and half. So go over to your extrude options over here, and if they're minimized, which they sometimes are, just open it up, and here are your different options. You can have it go in one direction, the direction it's going in, the opposite direction, which is what we did when we grabbed the arrow and moved it over here, or we could do a half and half, which will have half on one side of the plane and half on the other side of the plane, or we could do an asymmetrical, half and half, which means we can control how far it goes out and how far it goes in. So let's do that. We're going to adjust it so it only goes out by 0.01. So now it goes out just enough that if we tried to color it, it will actually change colors. And Inventor doesn't really have a good white to it. The white still looks very gray. So in order to tackle that problem, last year we discovered a new color. So if you just go to your Adjust, select here, instead of choosing a color from this color wheel, open up your additional color options by clicking on that arrow and scroll down until you find the color called Smooth Ivory. Right over here, and that's the whitest you're going to find in Inventor, Smooth Ivory. And so to hit OK, and yeah, it doesn't quite look that white, but it's the best we can do. So Rosie has a hat right now. Last thing I'm going to do in this video is, like I said before, Rosie's head's going to spin left and right. So in order to do that, we need some way to connect the head to the other body and then have it move. And if you think about it, something that moves left and right all the time is like the hinge to your phone. You can open up your phone and a hinge, well, not on the smartphones, will make it move. So that was actually kind of a crude example. What we're going to do is we're going to create a cylinder on the bottom of Rosie's head. So I'm going to create a sketch over here. I'm going to draw out a circle. That circle to be 0.2 inches. And I want that circle also to be halfway, so that is actually already set to halfway, 1.125. And I also want it to be halfway from the other side. So I believe this dimension was 1.65, so I'm going to divide that by 2, and that's going to get me to the halfway point. I'm going to click Finish Sketch, and I'm going to extrude out this cylinder, and let's extrude it out 0.5, and then I'm going to click OK. So now we can take this head and we're going to connect it later to the body. So this is going to connect into the body, and I'm going to demonstrate that in the next video, but this one's running a little long, so I will see.
This style of music doesn't fit anywhere else in the movie. Makes you think Lion King.
She will be okay.
But she won't remember I have powers?
It's for the best.
Listen to me, Elsa. Your power will only grow. There is beauty in it, but also great danger. You must learn to control it. Fear will be your enemy.
So, you're saying we should lock her up alone in a castle until she's safe to be around?
What? That's not what I said. That's a terrible idea. No.
So, you're saying we should teach her to be scared of herself?
Are you even listening? I just said fear is her enemy.
So you're saying to teach her to bundle all her feelings up till she gets this freedom complex? And wait and see if she gets over this whole powers thing?
Oh, wow. You guys are bad parents. No, I'm not saying to do any of those things.
So, you're saying...
Stop saying so! Every time you say that, you say the wrong thing.
Conceal, don't feel?
Oh my gosh, the answer is love! Okay? Wow, love thaws, pure love heals. Okay, just come with me. I know a place that can help.
Hello, Elsa. My name is Charles Xavier. Welcome to my school for gifted youngsters.